So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in. I hope all of you are safe and doing well. It's a privilege and an honor to be present in this forum, which has been my home for decades now. The topic of my today's presentation is, we believe that experience ecosystem will bring virtual and life together in such a manner that they will come together as one. Now, Hollywood also has to have a story, right? So what we believe is that stories and adventures are at the heart of human connection. And if you really look within yourself deep, you would see that your most cherished memories are those which you have either created with others, shared with others, or heard from others. So we believe that this creative entertainment and enriched experiences would not only bring people together, but also create communities which share interests. And this will result in taking our dreams together to the next plane. An example of that is Professor Crew of Stanford University, when he had originally presented his ideas and thoughts and the vision which is about the Messicopter. There was a young Dr. Babu Balram, who saw that, and he envisioned that someday this Messicopter would fly in Mars. And the result of that, in 2021, Ingenuity actually flew over Mars. And this Messicopter is believed to take the next generation of exploration because it goes away from land. So stories do have a way of creating and inspiring the others, their own stories. Now, we also think that since stories and experience are connecting people and society, we believe that we engage with others through stories. And this essentially becomes the central to our human communication and cognition. And psychologists have actually found that if you can connect information, statistics, data, all of them together through a common storyline, it is possible to have a recollection factor that is almost 22 times that of, instead of just disjointed facts and figures. So storytelling becomes very important. And this is not only true in our personal lives, this is also true in our professional lives, because stories and experiences actually lead to creating microcosms of like-minded people. A proof of that, if you go to LinkedIn today, there is almost about 122,000 people who have storytelling as part of their title, which means storytelling is becoming more and more important in the corporate world as well. Now, storytelling need not be restricted to one platform. Because these are borderless, both from a geography perspective as well as from a medium perspective, they enable a platform so that people across the world can come, connect, and share their own talent. An example of that, Travis Scott launched his own song on Fortnite. Those who have seen it, he used an avatar to actually launch it within the game. The question then becomes, is storytelling valuable for ourselves? The answer is a resounding yes. Storytelling essentially makes our life better. It helps us to live longer and have a more meaningful life. Because experience sharing creates social bonds. An example of that is this Blue Zone study that was carried out. And it proved, and these are some of the places that they carried out their studies, that Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, and Ikaria in Greece, people actually, other than having, of course, healthy lifestyle and normal exercising, they would always mingle and share their own stories. And when they did so, it helped them create a bond that essentially enhanced their lives. And on average, these people have a longevity close to 84 years. So it was living longer, much more fuller lives. So essentially, stories and experiences are able to enrich and create healthy lifestyle as well. We know that stories are, of course, created through life experiences, and they are shared with each other so that you remember it and use it as taking your own story ahead. And life experiences people have always shared, whether they put it on the tablets, whether they put it on the paper, whether they put it online through blogs, through pictures. But more and more and more people are seeing that video is becoming the most important way where you can create and share your own thoughts. A testimony to that, YouTube has overtaken Facebook as the #1 social networking site in terms of activity. And we are, especially in these times that you have seen with this recent pandemic and etc., our social needs are actually being fulfilled by sharing our experience through both the real and the virtual world. And this number that you see, 19.5 hours per month, that's the average time people are spending on well-known social media sites to share their own experience. And one company actually understood, as we are progressing, our attention span is going down, but we have an urge to share video. So the intersection set of short attention span and the need to share our experience through video created the TikTok generation, which had about 200% growth in 2020 and is expected to also hit very similar numbers in 2021. Then is the question that if we as both technologists as well as business people, do we see a value in sharing stories? Because if it has a real value, then it means that we can actually enhance our experience. We can enhance our stories and actually create a more elevated storyline. So I tried to understand whether there is a value of the stories that we create. And we found that if you look at the Facebook's valuation, about 866 billion, and they have about 2.8 billion users, roughly translates to about $346 per user that is sharing their own story. So we could clearly see that over the last 5, 6, 7 years, with the increase in the valuation of the stories that we are sharing, it is clear that stories have a life, stories have a value, and stories fluctuate in valuation over a period of time. So with this premise, let us try to introduce how virtual breeds life in reality. We believe that this whole immersive virtual experience is actually bringing people together in no ways that has been heard before. The virtual reality industry is now worth 18.8 billion and is growing at 18% CAGR. And there are companies which are actually using extended reality, which is a mixture of AR, VR, and MR, to actually drive co-design. So you can log on into their environment, create your own products from the numerous bill of materials, and create your own unique product. And these immersive experiences are actually crossing boundaries into education system as well. So the hallowed universities which relied on their own earlier methods was challenged in 2020, where online became the single most driver of sharing knowledge. And it is almost stated by this 2024, 66% of learning and sharing will happen online. And these interactions and immersive experiences will continue to enrich us and contextualize and show us how our choices impact what we see, what we hear, and what we experience. The Black Mirror's Bandersnatch, I'm sure all of you have seen, has almost 1 trillion combinations of which how you can have those interactive endings to those movies. And these incidents of how virtual and social come together, how they create new connections in both physical as well as the virtual world. There's a very good example that I found out about the University of California, Berkeley. So in 2020, when the COVID hit us, the graduates or the batch that was graduating in 2020 found out there wasn't going to be the usual fanfare and throwing their caps in the air. So what a few collected people, they got together, and on Minecraft, they created the entire university block by block, brick by brick, and from inside out and outside in, created the entire environment of their university. And their chancellor and the vice chancellor, they actually came and their own avatars, and they gave the graduation ceremony. So a couple of years from now, these people will always remember what was the Berkeley University about. So we see that there is an example of how hyper-personalization and interconnected virtual worlds can come together. And I've taken a very simple use case. Assuming you're watching some documentary on Tuscany, on Netflix, and you share your own views about the sights and sounds on the social media. And this, if it is connected on an ecosystem platform such that DoorDash picks it up and it recommends to you some Italian food and a Tuscan wine to go with. And Spotify, the spots the trend and orders to find out that three tenors can enhance your mood. You see the virtual art gallery and you can realize that this is a good place to visit. The question is now, is this one way that virtual can enhance physical world? The answer is no. We believe that virtual and real are actually interconnected with each other. Starting from the position one, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, phenomenal visuals, and you can promote your movies and your games and your travel experience of Greece. And imagine you are experiencing that game and you see Socrates is talking in the amphitheater in your own language, and you hear that and you share that. And with like-minded people, you are interested to travel to Greece and you book your experience and you go there and you share your experience, what you saw. And the more this community shares their experience, it can actually be fed back into a virtuous loop to provide a more personalized recommendation when you next time try and play Assassin's Creed. So we believe that these two things could actually come together and create that seamless experience for us going forward. But all of this ties together to actually how we can elevate the experience to the next normal. There are three priorities that we have found out which are driving growth. Number one, digital excellence. Tesla is an example who had their whole digital car booking. And in all this pandemic, while other auto manufacturers had challenges, Tesla actually increased their sales. Orange product, Poland has a product called Flex, where if you have an eSIM, you can go live by selecting a package, and then you can download after the app and then go live within 2 minutes. Safe and contactless engagement, Kroger has seen that almost 30% of their in-store sales have gone up. I've personally experienced it. It's actually a good way to show that safety and contactless engagement is going to be the next driver. And of course, there is the dynamic insights to predict delight, where the Netflix and the Expedia of the world are, of course, constantly recommending what next to watch. And there is a lead indicator as well that people are clear that online experience requires you to have data. And this is a very important nugget I found, that there is almost a 4-fold increase in Google search about how to have a data plan upgrade. So people are clear that their in virtual world is required to give an enhanced life experience to elevate their experiences. So finally, the question becomes that how do we bring the stories, the elevated experience, the virtual and the real together? And we believe that an experience ecosystem, if brought together, will bring together people with own personalized and elevated experiences. So if you look at this butterfly diagram, on the bottom left, you have the content creators, you have the content distributors on the right, and on the top half, you have the whole retail, hospitality, and the travel industry, as well as the people with the parks and events and spaces. And if we are able to bring together these people, it is highly possible to create such an elevated experience. How so? Let me take a real life example. All these are well-known companies in your universe. For example, companies like Sony Pictures, companies like Electronic Arts, Netflix. So content creators, the content distributors, you have the content aggregators and the measurement companies. You connect them with the retail, you have the digital and the social platforms, the platforms for travel, hospitality, theme parks. And if you bring, it is possible, and we are begun to work on it, if it is possible to create a data fabric that will connect with the consumer graph, with personalization, social integration, create like a gamified immersive experience, we can actually do the segmentation, understand content affinity, and help promote cross-channel performance. And understand what recommendation means. We believe that we can bring all these elements together and actually enhance the life of the consumer's experience. Because the experience that we can bring together by connecting the dots across all these elements, it will help the people realize that the ecosystem can enhance how we live life and how we live life better. With that, I would like to come to the end. Thank you very much for being here, and it's a pleasure again. Thank you, Hits.